Hello, people. How's it going? Well, this is going to be a hodgepodge of books, mostly about individuals before the Battle of Gettysburg. First one is Mead. Excellent book. If you find this book, buy this book because it's very good. A very good book of General Meade. Meade of Gettysburg is no one-sided brief. Is no. That's what it says. I mean, it is a good book. I like this book. Yeah. This author wrote Waltz about Chickamauga, The Life of Gordon H. Thomas, but that's Western theater. But anyway, he's excellent. This book is very good. I've heard very good things about this book. He gets a bad rap because nobody remembers that he actually wasn't fired. He won the Battle of Gettysburg. I sometimes think people think Grant did. Grant was in Vicksburg. That's what he was. But excellent book. Worth reading. Very interesting general. He was also from Pennsylvania. So. Confederate General A.P. Hill. Interesting guy. Not the greatest of guys. Not the nicest of people. Him and Stonewall Jackson did not get along, if I remember correctly. I think they were going to fight a duel at one point. He was the last major general to be killed in the Civil War in the Confederacy. I believe it was Cedar Creek he was killed at, where General Ewell was captured. This is a good author. He's also written one on Stonewall Jackson, too. Now, I picked this one only because I don't have a biography, oddly enough, of just Lee, which is weird. This is a good book, a dual biography, of course, but it's pretty good. I like this book on General Lee. Lee gets a little too much credit for things. I mean, Lee was a good general because he had an army that made him look good. The Union Army looked bad because it didn't have any good generals yet. Well, in command anyway. But yeah, this is a good book. And also because Vicksburg falls tomorrow and Grant is also, Grant didn't fall Vicksburg. I should have brought that book up here. Maybe I'll do that in a minute. We have Jeb Stuart, who fought, he was an interesting guy. He was very flamboyant, and did I mention flamboyant? He was also a very brilliant cavalry commander. He knew what he was doing. He knew how to fight, and he knew what to do, except when he got to Yellow Tavern where he was killed, unfortunately. I mean, he was killed at Yellow Tavern. Which was almost a year from the time that he was almost killed at Brandy Station. He did fight Custer at Gettysburg. But I read this book years ago, if I remember correctly. So I liked it. I thought it was fairly decent. Well written for the most part. Not too bad. I recommend books to other people to read them and have their own opinion. That's partly why I do what I do and how I do it. I want other people to read the book and say, this is my opinion, I agree or don't agree with David. And here's the fellow that he fought against, General Armstrong Custer. He was something. Custer's ego got the better of him in the end, literally. In the end, his ego and his ambitions and this, that, and the other got the better of him. But it is a very good book. I told you, I like Jeffrey Wirt. Also, I have two other Jeffrey Wirt books to go through. But I like this guy. I love him, the author. I like the author. I love how he writes. I like the details. I like how he writes and how he explains things, how he shows details and gets inside their heads and stuff. I like the author. Interesting guy. Dumbass, but he was an interesting guy. There's the other Jeffrey Wirt book by my favorite Confederate general, General James Longstreet. This is a good book. This is an excellent book. Tom Berenger plays Longstreet very well in the movie Gettysburg. And it was kind of how Longstreet was. He was very morose, he always seemed to be very negative. He always just seemed to see. He wasn't a very emotional guy. When I compared him to Teddy Roosevelt, Longstreet literally was like a volcano about to erupt. Teddy was like a volcano that had already erupted and we're going to try to control him. That was Teddy. But Longstreet is, look, I like Longstreet. I like him as a person, as a general. No, I don't agree with him, of course, but I do like him. I like this book. It's an excellent book. Worth everything to reading this book. But he was an interesting guy. Lee should have listened. Sorry, Lee should have listened. What happens when you don't listen? I tried to get the books of people I know were there at the Battle of Gettysburg. John B. Gordon wasn't at Gettysburg. I mean, I do have his memoirs, but he wasn't there, so I'm not bringing that book down. A Brotherhood of Valor: The Common Soldiers of the Stonewall Brigade, the Confederacy, and the Iron Brigade, the USA. Another workbook, another excellent book. Wirt writes well. I've never had a bad Jeffrey Wirt book. I've never found one and never read one. They're all excellent. They're all excellent books. Another good, very good book. The Common Foot Soldier. And, it chronicles the foot soldiers, of the battles. And we have pictures. Let's see if we have anything worth showing here. Remember, the Englishman in the movie Gettysburg does exist. This is him. This is Fremantle. Fremantle was an actual person. So when you see the Englishman walking around with the Confederacy, talking about this, that, and the other, this is him. It took me a while to find this. This chair's gotta go. But this is him. This is a good book. Of what I've read. I read parts of it, but Lieutenant Colonel James Fremantle of our Queen's Royal Guards, as Pickett would say in the movie. Journal of the Confederacy. He became enamored with the South. When you read this book, remember one basic detail. He kind of whitewashes the South a little bit to make them look not as bad. He kind of became enamored with them. He became a fanboy. Let's just put it that way. He became sort of almost like the South can do no wrong. So read it, but read it with caution, because you're not going to get a very unbiased view of anything. He's very biased, and he's biased toward the South. He likes the South. And then we have my friend Paula's favorite general, Hancock the Superb. Winfield's called Hancock. And he was superb. He did everything perfectly and wonderfully. I mean, he was a great general. And he ran for president. He lost, and then he died a year later, so it was a good thing he lost, because he would have died in office. But Hancock the actor who plays him does very well, particularly in the first movie. Second movie, he's okay, but I think the first movie is about Gettysburg. But this is an excellent book. This is an excellent book. A very excellent book. But Winfield Scott Hancock, A Soldier's Life. The compelling biography. And it's compelling. It's a good book. Very worth reading. Worth reading a lot. And then we have Mr. Round Top. Soul of a Lion. Biography of General Joshua Lawrence Chamberlain. Now, I have also Chamberlain's book on the passing of the armies that he wrote. But Chamberlain is an interesting guy. I like Chamberlain. I probably think he had a tendency to exaggerate on occasion, shall we say. But this book is good. Chamberlain is an interesting guy. He wasn't a trained soldier. He became one. He was a school teacher. He was a college professor. I mean, he wasn't a military man. But look, Jeff Daniels does a wonderful, perfect job of playing Chamberlain. He just does. That is Chamberlain to the core. Very good book, by the way. And then the guy who was doing the Confederate artillery, which you don't really see a whole lot of in the movie, but this is him. This is General E.P. Alexander. You see him briefly when he tells Longstreet, I'm running out of ammunition. I can't keep this up much longer. I'm really running out of cannonballs here, General. But this is E.P. Alexander's military memoirs of the Confederate, critical narrative. I haven't read this book yet, but But you never know. It sounds good. Doesn't mean it is, but it sounds good. But again, realize these aren't written by Confederates who lost the war. And if you read the John B. Gordon memoir, you do get the faint idea that I don't think General Gordon, you're really telling it really how it was. So, but but anyway, it's a good book. It's a good book anyway. But those are some of the books I can find at this moment on people who were there, generals and the foot soldiers, Englishmen who shouldn't have been there in the first place because they snuck into the country. And he did. He snuck into the country. From Mexico through Texas. He snuck in. He wasn't supposed to be there. He had no business being there. He lied. But he is real. Fremantle was a real person. So was Harrison. I was going to show the last full measure book of the first Minnesota, but I mean, I already did with the Pale Horse at Plum Run book. Do I have any other books of just strictly Gettysburg people? Well, I do have a book on Vicksburg, but that's tomorrow. But you know what? We'll show it anyway. Because this happens tomorrow. The fall of Vicksburg happens tomorrow. This is a very good book. I have read this one. This is a very good book. Excelente. General Grant's campaign that broke the Confederacy, and it did. It split the Confederacy in half. I mean, it did. It broke them. I think without this victory, Gettysburg would have mattered, but not as much. Because Lee still had an army, and he still had an army. Still had to beat the army. But once the Union got control of more of the Mississippi, it was becoming obvious you're not going to win this. But this is a very good book. Excellent. All right, I might do one more video on something different, maybe. But anyway, like, share, comment, subscribe. Thank you for watching. Behave yourselves, people, because I'm not going to. I don't know how. Later.